What is going on, everyone? Welcome into Big Time Football Talk. So let's talk Clemson football. Let's get right to the schedule with Clemson. So Clemson's going to open the season at Duke. You feel like this is a winnable game for them. And then September 9th, they'll play Charleston Southern. The 16th, Florida Atlantic. September 23rd, mark your calendar right there. They play Florida State. That'll be a huge game. They get Florida State at home, which I think is big because Clemson just doesn't lose a lot at home. You saw last year. They lost for the first time against South Carolina at home. This was the first time they lost at home since 2016. Also, the first time they had lost when leading at halftime, which I thought was interesting since the 2016 loss to Pitt. At Syracuse, September 30th. That'll be interesting. Syracuse usually always gives them a tough time. Home versus Wake Forest, October 7th. That was a shootout last year. At Miami, October 21st. Home versus Notre Dame, November 4th. Notre Dame, really got the better of them. I was actually just watching that game. Notre Dame really got the run game rolling. But you got to believe, I think Clemson gets them back this year. Clemson, you feel like it's going to be too talented. It's just too talented in general to lose to Notre Dame back-to-back years. With all due respect to Notre Dame, I think Clemson gets them this year. Home versus North Carolina, and then at South Carolina. So, to be honest, this is actually a fairly tough schedule for Clemson, to be honest. If when you're looking at this thing as a whole, you luckily you get a lot of your tougher games are going to be at home, but yeah, this can be tough. So let's get into the depth chart. Receiver, Bo Collins. Bo Collins, still a young guy, just going to be a true junior. A guy that's dealt with some injuries, but really does flash some speed and explosiveness with the ball in his hands. Antonio Williams headed into his true sophomore year, number 0. Antonio Williams is a guy that has everything you want in a receiver. Ability to come down with balls in traffic, make plays after the catch. He knows how to get open. He's got good footwork. He can run routes with precision. There's not a lot receiver ability to come down with balls in traffic, make plays after the catch. He knows how to get open. He's got good footwork. He can run routes with precision. There's not a lot to nitpick about Antonio Williams' game. It's just a matter of, can he be more consistent and can he actually hold on to the football? He had in the whole Clemson team, that goes for the whole Clemson team too. They had a bunch of fumbles last year. Williams had a fumble that was costly in the South Carolina game. You can't really just pin that loss on Antonio Williams, that fumble, but they've got to do better as a whole of holding on to the football next year. So the offensive line for Clemson, Blake Miller was a guy, he's projected to move over to left tackle. He was their right tackle last year, and he really did an excellent job. I really didn't see anyone get by Blake Miller at all. He seemed to be just a rock solid tackle for him. Will Putnam, Walker Parks, Putnam the center, Parks the guard, both really good players. They've played a lot of good football for Clemson. So they have Marcus Tate projected at left guard, Tristan Lehigh at right tackle. Lee, am I saying that right? Lehigh. He was a former big time recruit. So we'll see how he does. But this is a Clemson offensive line though, with Tate, Miller, Putnam, Parks. Whether you believe in their high-end talent and their projection in the NFL, is a guy that do have a lot of experience and have played some good football overall. I think that's safe to say. Cade Klubnik, going to be the quarterback. Klubnik was marched into duty last year in the SEC championship game. Really did a nice job. They came away with a win over North Carolina. He even said in a recent podcast that was probably their best game overall. Jake Brimmingstool was a high tight end who's had some flashes. Will Shipley at running back. Shipley's been a really good player. Now enters his third year, believe it or not. It seems like he just got there. Seems like he was just bursting on the scene against Georgia. So, the offense, there's a lot to like about this Clemson offense overall, as far as the offensive line is concerned, the wide receiver, the running back. Shipley, excellent football player. So the offense as a whole is really really just rock solid, if you're being honest. The defensive side, Jeremiah Trotter really stands out at linebacker, a guy that's just a tackling machine. Him and Jalen Phillips, the safety, were their leading tacklers last year. Barrett Carter, excellent linebacker as well. Barrett Carter is a guy, like another guy I'll get to on Clemson. Barrett Carter is asked to do a lot of things. He's listed as their weak side linebacker. They asked him to, swing out, cover the slot. They asked him to blitz. They can move him inside. They asked him to take on interior blocks, get off of those, and make tackles. He's a big, physical, strong dude who just really does it all. I'm a huge fan of Barrett Carter's game. This is a guy that Trotter's getting a lot of talk as probably the best linebacker in the country. I think as we move, at the end of the year, I think there'll be a lot of hype around Barrett Carter as maybe being the best linebacker in the nation and for this next draft class. So Clemson could have the top 2 linebackers in the country and the top 2 linebackers for next year's NFL draft. So a lot of experience there, very talented linebacking core overall, even though they do lose Trenton Simpson. Secondary, I love Jalen Phillips, good player. Andrew Makuba, maybe the best safety in the country. He's a guy that's just a very good tackler, a guy that's all over the field making plays. Nate Wiggins, I'm telling you, man, Nate Wiggins. You've heard comparisons to A.J. Terrell. He's a lot like A.J. Terrell. I think this is what Clemson has been searching for after A.J. Terrell, a guy that can just go out on an island and be asked to cover the opposing team's top wide receiver man-to-man. He's very good in man-to-man, can play zone coverage, can tackle. He's got very good acceleration, knows how to mirror and stay with wide receivers, can work back to the football, has ability to, with his acceleration, can work back to the ball and make plays on shorter in-breaking routes. So huge fan of Nate Wiggins, and he's another guy that on this Clemson defense that maybe talked about as the number 1 corner. They still have Xavier Thomas. It seems like Xavier Thomas has been at Clemson for a long time. This guy that really has not, if you're being honest, has not lived up to his 5-star hype, but a good football player nonetheless, and definitely a guy you want to add depth. Tyler Davis and Rook Aurora, guys that will anchor the middle at the defensive tackles. I'm a fan of both. I think Aurora is going to be a guy that's going to be up there as one of the top defensive tackles in next year's draft. I think Tyler Davis will have a key. Tyler Davis, a guy that's played a lot of football, played a lot of good football for Clemson, but to me, is this a guy that can take his game to you see a lot of guys it kind of reminds me of Derek Brown, for example. Derek Brown had a really good career at Auburn, and then in 2019, his last year there, came back for his senior year, like Tyler Davis. Davis is a graduate, so I'm not sure if this is his 5th year or 6th year. But like Derek Brown, came back for his senior year and then just had a even better year after already a good career where most people thought, yeah, he probably might be a first rounder. I think that was, if Tyler Davis came out, I think he's maybe a late first. Or probably not even that. Probably a early second, maybe 3rd round guy. But Tyler Davis, a guy with another good season, and he can build on his skill set, and he just kind of puts the icing on the cake in his career. I think he can work himself into a 1st round pick at D tackle. This guy that gets off, blocks well, can hold the point of attack. He knows how. The quickness off the snap is there. A guy that has all the tools you want in a defensive tackle. It should be exciting to see how Tyler Davis performs for the Clemson defensive line. Some of the younger guys I was watching the spring game, Khalil Barnes, a guy they have listed as their strong side linebacker, a guy who's super athletic for a linebacker, a guy that can cover slots, a guy that has got some good speed, acceleration, will come up and make tackles, and a guy that Dabo Swinney was talking highly of. So Khalil Barnes, definitely a guy to keep an eye on for Clemson. Some notable backup guys, Toriano Pride Jr., R.J. Mickens. R.J. Mickens played a lot of snaps last year at safety. Trey Williams. Incoming 5-star Peter Woods, definitely a guy to watch. This was a guy that his hand usage is excellent. a guy who is going to be should be very good as just a true freshman. Strong, physical. I mean, insane quickness off the snap. Very strong in the upper body. So, yeah, Peter Woods. I mean, this guy was. It depends on which recruiting service you look at. Just like the 33rd overall player by 24/7 Sports, but most people said he should have been way higher. There's a lot of excellent traits for Peter Woods' game. But yeah, I mean, the burning questions, though, for Clemson football. Can they clean up the fumbles? Can they clean up the turnovers? Can the offense be more consistent? They bring in new offensive coordinator, was at TCU last year, Lincoln Riley's brother, Garrett Riley. So this offense should be improved. Cade Klubnik added 20 pounds of muscle. He looks a lot bigger. He looks a lot stronger. So this Clemson offense, I mean, there's a lot of pieces in place to really take off and really be dominant this year. DJ Uiagalelei, the quarterback last year, and Cade Klubnik. He was talking on a podcast that he trusted in the process and Dabo Swinney when he was going to get to play him. So Cade Klubnik, to me, I see a little Trevor Lawrence in him, just a guy that is, it seems like just a fierce competitor. You saw him really getting after it in that Orange Bowl game, even though they lost 31-14 to Tennessee. You just saw him competing, getting after it. Klubnik, to me, I think this is a guy that is willing to just do whatever it takes to keep improving his game. So I think it's going to be fun to see what he can do with Bo Collins, Antonio Williams in a full year of this offense and getting into a rhythm and just improving as the year goes on. I think Clemson, this could be a team kind of like when they won it all in 2016 with Deshaun Watson, that they kind of started off slow, but they just just kept improving. I think this Clemson team reminds me of that. Maybe they get off to a slower start this year. New offense. Cade Klubnik's second year maybe has some growing pains early on, but this seems like a team that, like Will Shipley and Klubnik have talked. This seems like a close-knit team. I think this will be a team that you look for mid to late season, where maybe they get off to another 7-8-0 start, and a lot of people were talking, well, watch out for Clemson. They just keep getting better and better every week, winning games even in a weekend ACC conference. And that September 23rd game against Florida State will be very telling for the Clemson Tigers. They win that game convincingly early on, capping off a 4-0 start. I think that you'll see the hype really get rolling. And, this is another team, if you look at some of the top teams in college football, they all have guys that when it was all said and done were not just good college players, but were NFL difference makers. So you definitely see Barrett Carter, Nate Wiggins. To me, those are guys that'll be good in the NFL. Can they be difference makers next year? You could argue Barrett Carter already was a difference maker next year, but can they really? And now their third year of playing, can they really be a true difference maker and just be really stand out and make just big time plays in moments where they need it most? So Barrett Carter, Nate Wiggins, two guys in the Clemson defense that you really need to keep an eye on this year if you're watching Clemson, and will really be crucial to the success of this team. Obviously, Ruke Aurora, and Tyler Davis inside, because I'm always a believer in the trenches. If you look at the top Clemson teams, like in 2018, Dexter Lawrence, Christian Wilkins, they all were excelled in the trenches. They need some high-end play for Barrett Carter, from Nate Wiggins. Hopefully, can Peter Woods be that, could he be like the Will Anderson for Alabama in 2020, where he had a high 5-star come in and make a big impact? Can he be like Jalen Ramsey in 2013, where those teams had won the national title and had a lot of good players, but their best player was just a true freshman, but he was so exceptionally good, that he made an impact right away? Is Peter Woods that guy? I think he certainly can be. And if Clemson does something special this year, I think he'll really look back. Maybe they could do it. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but maybe they could do it 2 years in a row. But looking back on if Clemson does something big this year, then you're probably looking back and saying, man, Peter Woods, that freshman from Alabama, from Thompson, Alabama, made a huge impact and was critical to putting a stamp on the defensive line. And yeah, so because that, to me, I'm watching the Notre Dame game, and Tyler Davis and Aurora and Brian Brzee, who's not there anymore, did a good job of holding the point of attack, but Clemson was not getting off a block. So Peter Woods, to me, seems like a good compliment to Tyler Davis and Rook and the defensive tackles because of his ability to get off of blocks. I think Clemson, this is a team that's their recruiting staff has done an excellent job of recruiting because, like I've always thought, and I've probably said this in past videos, but it's one thing to recruit good college players. It's another thing to recruit good college players who have high-end NFL traits and can make big time difference, game-changing plays. Because if you look back, teams that have won the national title, like I just touched on, the Clemson 2018, they had NFL difference makers on defense. They also had A.J. Terrell, Christian Wilkins, Dexter Lawrence, and then you had Ben Boulware, who was a good college player. So it was kind of a mix of both. To me, Jeremiah Trotter Jr., even though I think he could have a good NFL future, to me he seems kind of like the Ben Boulware, just that like the quarterback of this defense, the leader, a guy that's just going to be rock solid, a guy that you can count on to be in position to make plays. To me, that's what Jeremiah Trotter is on this Clemson defense. But yeah, I kind of touched on a lot of what I wanted to get to. Toriano Pride Jr. is another guy that played some football. Can he be like that second corner, or be like, I guess, the third corner, the first rotational guy? Because they also got Sheridan Jones, number 6. Pride, there was some games he was picked on, and he won some, lost some. Like a lot of good corners, win some in man-to-man, lose some in man-to-man. But Toriano Pride, an excellent athlete, high recruited guy, a guy that doesn't back down from competing. So definitely got to keep an eye on. He's number 23 for the Tigers. Antonio Williams, like we touched on. And then, Vic Burley, another highly touted incoming freshman for Clemson. What's interesting, Clemson does not really work the transfer portal too much. But is that one of those things where kind of Michigan last year, going into the 2022 season, didn't really add a lot of guys in the transfer portal? Is that kind of a good thing? Is that just show that the coaching staff is so confident in what they have as a team that they're willing to just roll with their guys and trust the guys that they've recruited the last couple years and trust that they have enough high-end playmakers to get this thing done, repeat as ACC champions, and compete for a national champion? To me, I think that is more so the case that they're comfortable with the guys they have, which is good. I think I'm all for being confident in that manner. But yeah, this offense should be fun to watch. And Riley, as the offensive coordinator, I mean, the proof was in the pudding. You saw how good the TCU's offense was last year, and Clemson, you could argue, has better talent than what TCU had offensively last year. So, to me, like this Clemson offensive line, if you look up, I'm sure I guess I shouldn't assume this, but Clemson offensive line, they did give up some sacks last year, but a lot of it was they weren't, I guess they need to improve at picking up the blitz, but a lot of it was Uyunglele was just sitting there in the pocket, not moving for he was not processing quickly. To me, Klubnik's is a guy who I think in this offense, and I think this is just the nature of the way he plays, he's going to process throws quicker. If there's nothing open, he's just going to get outside the pocket and make something happen. And that's what you saw a lot in the Tennessee game, a little bit in the North Carolina, Syracuse, the other games where he came in. To me, he said he doesn't want to get the label of dual threat quarterback. He's just he's a quarterback that can run, or somewhere along. I'm paraphrasing, somewhere along the lines he said. But yeah, to me, Klubnik, I think he's going to be a guy that's going to look to throw more. He looked so raw last year. It looked like a high school quarterback playing college football last year. He looked like a guy who talented, but just like it looked like the game was a little bit fast for him, and it looked like he just was not physically mature like he looks now, adding the 20 pounds of muscle. So I'm going to wrap with that, guys. Thanks for tuning in to Big Time Football Talk. Make sure to stay tuned for more episodes and clips from the show. Till next time, peace.